Thank you for joining us for our 11th edition, and I want to welcome again George Gilder. Why don't we start just by saying how great it is for you to be here, and
Zoom.
yeah, Zoom is weird, but maybe you could give me a little bit of background that you like. How do you like to express your your experience? You've been a writer for what,
Been a writer
50
for
years now?
60 years, I
Yeah,
guess, 70 years. Really, I really started writing on the Berkshire Eagle back
yeah.
in about 1955 as a kid in the Berkshires. I wrote obituaries and covered track meets. I was already
That's
running. And
awesome.
I went from the Berkshire Eagle into the Marines, and then to Harvard, back to Harvard. I'd flunked out of Harvard already, and I had a bad initial experience. And at Harvard, I studied with Henry Kissinger, and he really plunged me into a concern with strategy. And all my subsequent developments really began with a concern with military strategy that is associated with game theory. Thomas Schelling's the Nobel laureate, Harvard game theory, and John von Neumann's economics with Morgenstern. And it all comes from focusing on individual companies and entrepreneurial activity as the driver of the economy rather than big macroeconomic.
All right. So when you were when you began, really, you were involved in policy, right?
Right. It was policy.
Yeah. So how does policy relate to strategy for individual companies? Like,
Well, I was saying, I was explaining that policy led to game theory. You know, all Kissinger, John Wohlstetter, Morgenthau, Hans Morgenthau, all my teachers back then, Thomas Schelling, were interested with game theory and John von Neumann's game theory. And game theory deals with individual agents. Game theory is less a matter of big statistical movements. It's more concerned with what motivates individual actors in any sort of environment, whether it's a war or an economy. So that was where I started. And my initial insight, my initial paper that I wrote for Kissinger was on quantitative versus qualitative arms races. And qualitative arms races favor the most creative countries, the countries that have the most entrepreneurs and inventors and technology launchers. It's while quantitative arms races, you mobilize more and more of the resources of the country, more and more of the manpower. And I thought that qualitative arms races favor free countries, while quantitative arms races favor tyrannies that can force people into the military and can mobilize resources for the battlefield. And while I was at Harvard, I thought that my objection was that all the focus was on stopping qualitative arms races, technology arms races, banning nuclear weapons, restricting biotech. In other words, driving arms races away from the area that favors entrepreneurial, creative economies into the domains that favor tyrannies and totalitarians and communists. And so that was how and I'm still doing that. I still am
so how, like,
technology.
When you look at the world today, like, that's still going on. You want this is what I love about what you do and the way that you think is you're looking at the creative process.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, it's so crazy that we don't just do that as a people. Yeah. Like, why don't we do that?
I don't know, but creativity always comes as a surprise to us.
Yeah,
and that's how you define it. And my big insight that has led to my information theory of economics is that all information theory, Claude Shannon's theory that underlies the internet and all digital networks, defines information as surprise. And so there's this whole information theory that's used by every network company in the world and every telecom company with all its mathematical apparatus that can be extended to capitalist economies, identifying creativity as surprise. And that's really the heart of my information theory of capitalism.